Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm reacting to 5 horror pizza videos from the YouTube channel Scary Animated Stories.
Let my experiences serve as a warning to anyone who works for or plans to work for someone delivering pizzas. This happened to me over 3 years ago in spring of 2015. I worked at my local Pizza Hut at the suggestion of a friend who put in a good word for me. I'm a guy, and I was 24 back then. The only reason I took the job was because my previous employer had recently passed away, and I needed money fast. Anyway, one night I had a creepy and terrifying experience. Because of these experiences, I remember every detail, down to the toppings that were on the freaking pizzas. The first was a regular medium pepperoni pizza, to what I assumed were college kids. When I pulled up to the address that I put in my phone, it looked like the kind of house students would rent. The guy that answered the door was middle-aged, and he gave me a bad vibe right away. At one point, the guy tried to invite me inside to accept pay for the order, but I told him I would wait outside, like we're supposed to do.
What?
Anyway, he got all weird about it. He seemed offended that I denied his offer. He grumbled angrily and then shoved the money in my hand. What was weird about this was, after I had the money in my hand, a woman, either his girlfriend or wife, came to the door, asking me to come inside as well. I gave them both a suspicious look and said, no, I can't. When I began to walk to my car, the woman follows me for some reason. I get in my car and she stays a few feet away at the sidewalk. The guy is at the door open with the pizza in his hand, and he's staring too, and they both simply watch me in silence as I drive away. God, that was so eerie. I couldn't help but wonder why they wanted me to come inside, and what would have happened to me if I did. On another occasion, I was out to deliver a medium-sized Supreme pizza. I pulled up to the address. It turned out to be a few blocks away from that creepy couple in the previous story, which I remembered clearly at that time, and was just trying to get it out of my head. I get out and do the usual delivery stuff. I knock at the door. There's no answer, so I knock again. Then I try the doorbell on the third time. After what seems like ages, I hear a click and another click. One was the door, but I couldn't place what the second click was. The guy who answered looked upset and asked what in the world I wanted. He was so confrontational, I wasn't expecting it. I noticed he was holding something by his leg, and I noticed there was a glint of reflecting metal on it, like it was a blade of some sort. Maybe that had something to do with the click I heard. I had to make sure I stayed calm, as there was no telling what he'd do. I quickly apologized and walked back to my car. When I looked back, he was standing at his door, brandishing the blade, as if to say from that distance, "Make that mistake again, boy, and that'll be your last." Who knew delivering pizzas could be so dangerous? When I was 18, I worked at a Pizza Hut as a delivery guy. I lived in Tucson, Arizona back then. On one particular delivery, I was sent to a certain road that I'd never been to before, which was strange for me, because in my free time I drove all over Tucson back then. So I took my delivery car and used my GPS to try and find the house. The GPS did not find the place, so I ended up having to use a map I had in the glove department. Finally, I found the house after half an hour of searching. At first, I thought the customer was going to be angry. But when I saw the house, I thought the whole delivery was a joke. The place was boarded up and breaking down. But I chanced it and went to the door and knocked, despite the place giving me chills. At first, I heard nothing in response. After knocking a third time and waiting, I began to hear creaking and an older-sounding man coughing from inside the house. I looked through a nearby window and saw about 5 men in their 60s on the other side of the door. All of a sudden, Something told me this wasn't a good idea, that I was not supposed to be here. But then the door began opening, and a man stepped outside. When he saw me, he looked into my eyes and said, "Get inside, or we're going to hurt you." I made a split-second decision.
What?
With the pizza still in hand, I ran for my car. I felt his arm grasp on the back of my shirt, but he couldn't get a grip.
That was gonna be a car.
So I made it to my car and floored it out of
He made it to
there.
his car. Luckily,
I'd
he
never
did.
been
That's
so scared or
scary.
frightened before. No one was around to help in these parts. It was basically the Boondocks. I quit my job after that. I'm not going to risk my life just to deliver pizzas on minimum wage. This is a short and weird experience. It was supposed to be a typical night, and I was craving pizza. So I called up Pizza Hut and ordered. It had to be Pizza Hut, I remember, because it was closest, and I didn't feel like waiting any longer than I had to.
You
I
did?
was given an estimated delivery time of about 15 minutes. But after about
Yeah,
15
yeah,
minutes
fine.
passed, I was getting irritated. By then, the Pizza Hut car pulled up.
Luckily, you had the nap then.
A short, blonde woman stepped out of the vehicle.
Oh,
She
okay,
had her
found it.
employee cap on backwards. When she was grabbing my pizza box and walking up to the door, I noticed she could barely stand up straight, and she acted like she was going to fall over at any moment. My first thought was that she was on something, but I shook it out of my head, not wanting to judge a book by its cover, even though that was kind of difficult at that moment. I simply reminded myself that I was finally getting my food, and I was hoping that it wasn't cold by now. It was around that time that I received a call. It was the Pizza Hut I'd placed my order at. They
What?
apologized for the delay and said that someone would be out soon.
Oh,
And
this is okay,
explained that one
dear.
of the employees' cars had been
Get out
stolen,
there, get out there,
and
get out
that
there.
my order was on the way now.
No.
I hung up. So, if my order was on the way, then who in the world was this? I noticed that when I picked up the phone, the woman had stopped walking toward my door. Suddenly, she straight up dropped the pizza box and ran back to the car
Oh,
and
goodness.
sped away, nearly launching herself off the nearby curb at
That
the
was
corner.
close.
I ran to the road and got her license plate number. Immediately, I called the Pizza Hut back and asked if that was the right number, and they said yes. They were able to use my call as a tip, and soon the woman was caught, and she was found with a Glock in her back pocket.
No, don't be
So that kind of answered the question that was haunting me. Why was she delivering my pizza if she had stolen that car? Why did she take the time to put on an employee's hat that she found? I think, just maybe, I narrowly escaped being the victim of a robbery.
My name is Brian, and I was around the age of 14 when this happened. I lived in a very rural part of the outside of Nashville, so my house is basically in the middle of nowhere. One day, I was told that my parents would be going out into the city that night for their 25th anniversary for dinner.
You gonna be
I was
home?
very excited that I would have the whole house to myself, and whenever my parents would go out, they would usually be gone for a long time, and I could really use the quiet. They left the house at around 7, and I just decided to play some video games and watch some TV, and later maybe make some dinner. For the first couple of hours, everything went okay. I played a few video games, watched some TV, and mostly just kept to myself. At around 9:30, I was watching a scary movie, and it was getting to a good scene when I heard a knock at the door. I rolled my eyes and paused the movie, but I was also confused that someone would be knocking on our door this late in practically the middle of nowhere. I opened the door to see a man, I'd say in his 30s, dressed in a Pizza Hut uniform, holding a large pizza in his hands. He said, "Hey there, buddy. I got a large pepperoni pizza for the Sanders." I was confused as to why he was here and how he knew my family's last name, which is Sanders. I told
That's
him,
weird.
hey, I didn't order any pizza." He said that someone from my address ordered it online. I asked him for his name, and he said it was Joseph. I said thanks and took the pizza from him, and he told me to have a nice night.
Okay.
As he was
So this
leaving,
is
though,
weird.
I noticed something very strange.
He didn't order any
I
pizza.
didn't see a car in our driveway, so I was wondering how he got here.
No car in the driveway?
I didn't pay too much attention, so I put the pizza
That's
down
just
and
creepy.
called my mom to ask if she had placed the order.
You were thinking,
She said that she didn't order any pizza for me. Now I was kind of getting freaked out. I
okay,
went out my
that's
front
creepy.
door trying to look for the delivery guy, but he was nowhere to be found.
Oh my
I then
God.
called Pizza Hut, asking if they had delivered any pizza to my address.
Please tell me
They
to
told
get
me to
that.
stay on the line while they checked, and they said, "Sorry, our records don't show that we delivered the pizza to your address." I
What?
told them thanks and hung up. I was very suspicious at this point and decided not to eat the pizza and that I would deal
Good
with it
thinking.
when my parents got home.
Yeah, wait for
I
your parents
just
to do
went to
that.
my room and continued to play my games when I heard a slight knock on my
That's good
window.
idea.
I opened the
What?
blinds and saw the same pizza guy standing there with a wide smile. His eyes were crazy and wild, and he just stood there staring. I closed my blinds and immediately went to the kitchen to call police, and they said they would have a cop
Oh my
there in 15
God.
minutes. I waited for what felt like hours
Oh,
until they
it's
finally
scary.
came and took my statement. I
Yeah.
gave him a description of
Okay.
the man, but they never found him, and I still have no idea
Oh
as to
my
what his
God.
intentions were. But I do know one thing.
Wow.
He was definitely not just
Crazy.
planning on delivering me pizza.
So my aunts were out of town for a couple of weeks, and they trusted me to be home alone. They didn't have
Yeah,
anything
that's
to worry
nice of them.
about. I'm not the partying type. I just like to go to work at a local store in my hometown, go out to eat, get cleaned up, and go to bed. That was my usual routine. That night I decided to stay in, and I ordered some pizza. I just didn't think that this much trouble could arise from something so mundane as ordering pizza. So I called in my order, and it didn't take very long for them to get to my house. I looked to make sure it was the delivery guy, and I was thankfully correct, though he was kinda creepy. I went out
Yeah,
and
that was
signed
kinda-
for it.
Totally
The man looked
creepy,
at me,
but
though,
I'm sure there's nothing
and
bad
began
gonna
to
happen.
ask me some creepy,
It's like,
personal
nothing bad's gonna happen. It's a
questions.
horror story.
Questions like, how old are you? And, are you here alone? I used to live around creepy guys like this when I
Yeah,
was a
those are
child.
creepy questions.
I knew how to answer them.
How old are you?
I told them
And,
to just
like,
have a
are you
good
alone? That's
night.
just creepy.
I began
That's
to
a good
turn
answer.
around with my order when I heard him say something else. By the way,
What did he say?
you look really good in your work uniform. I
Okay,
just
so it's
pretended to
just creepy.
smile, and I walked back into my house. I locked the door, and I had an anxiety attack. I didn't see him for a
That's
week after that
creepy.
incident, but when I was walking home, I saw him looking around the store, and I hurried out of there. But he
Get out
followed
there.
me, and he said hi.
What
I
you?
smiled and waved at him, then kept walking. Yet he kept following me, so I kept looking behind, keeping an eye on him. I walked into a gas station that I always stopped in after work. The manager there knew me very well. I told him the situation, and he told the man to leave me alone before we had a problem. But the manager of the gas station told me what the guy had said back to him, and that's the scariest part. The guy just smiled before walking away. He said, nothing to worry about. I'll have her alone soon. Luckily, nothing more has happened
What?
since then, but I have my guard
Luckily.
up, ready for anything. At least, I hope I'm ready.
If you enjoyed the stories like I did, please give this video a thumbs up, and if I reach 15 likes, I will do a part 2 to this video with another selection of videos for this channel. So I'll see you guys in my next video.